Welcome to The Grounded Believer, where we tackle real faith and real struggles with no sugarcoating. Today I want to speak directly to men quietly carrying a burden they can't name. Emotional abuse in Christian marriages affects up to 30% of believing men, yet churches rarely address it. If you're lying awake at night wondering if you're losing your mind or failing as a spiritual leader, this message is for you. God sees you. Your struggle is real, and understanding these patterns is the first step toward peace. Point 1. Let's start with the gaslighting trap, one of the most insidious weapons of emotional abuse. Gaslighting erodes your sense of reality, making you doubt your perceptions, feelings, and even your sanity. Proverbs 27:6 says, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful." When your spouse twists the truth, it's soul-destroying. You start second-guessing your every word and motive. Gaslighting can rewire your brain's ability to trust yourself. Sometimes it's as subtle as a sigh or a dismissive eye roll. Over time, these small acts leave you isolated and unsure. You might apologize for things you didn't do or for simply having needs. One practical step: keep a written record of key conversations, not to weaponize, but to help you trust your own perceptions again. When you write things down, you create an anchor point in reality. If you feel like you're always at fault, step back and ask, are my wounds the faithful wounds of a friend, or the deceitful kisses of an enemy? Gaslighting thrives in darkness and confusion. Documenting brings light into that darkness. Your perceptions matter. Your experience is real. God is not the author of confusion but of peace. The first step to freedom is seeing the trap for what it is. Point 2. Now let's talk about the reality distortion field. Emotional abuse doesn't just make you question your memory, it makes you lose yourself. God designed us for connection, not for relationships that tear us down. In an emotionally abusive marriage, you can feel profoundly alone even together. Healthy relationships reinforce our sense of self, but constant criticism fractures your identity. You become a shadow, always adapting to avoid conflict. I remember not knowing what I enjoyed or believed, always filtering through my wife's likely reaction. That's not partnership, that's captivity. Try this. Write down 3 truths about yourself that don't depend on your wife's opinion. These truths are the foundation of your identity. The reality distortion field convinces you your only value is keeping the peace. But God's truth about you is unchanging. You are loved, called, and have inherent dignity. Small acts of self-affirmation chip away at the lies. It's not prideful to recognize your worth, it's essential. Losing yourself isn't servant leadership, it's enabling dysfunction. True partnership is about mutual respect, not self-erasure. Take back your identity, one truth at a time. You're a man created in God's image, worthy of love and respect. Point 3. Let's move to the definition deception. One of the greatest obstacles Christian men face is naming emotional abuse for what it is. Ephesians 5:25 commands husbands to love their wives as Christ loved the church, but that doesn't mean accepting treatment that destroys your spirit. There's a false guilt that says noticing mistreatment means you're failing as a leader. But Christ's love is sacrificial and honest. It sets boundaries and never enables evil. Emotional abuse often hides behind biblical language. You might hear, if you were more Christ-like, I wouldn't treat you this way. That's manipulation, not exhortation. The definition deception makes you question if what you're experiencing is bad enough. Here's a test. Would you want your son to accept this treatment? If not, neither should you. Endurance without truth becomes complicity. Naming abuse is stewardship, not rebellion. Emotional abuse is real, and wounds of the heart can be devastating. Hold fast to the true definition of love and don't settle for less. Point 4. Now let's expose the isolation operation. Ecclesiastes 4:12 reminds us, a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Isolation is a classic tactic in abusive relationships. The abuser cuts you off from friends, family, and church, leaving you vulnerable. You might hear, your friends don't care about you, or why talk to your family so much? Over time, you withdraw, convinced no one would understand. Isolation is the enemy's playground. God created us for community and brotherhood. If you're withdrawing, push back. Rebuild just one trusted relationship. You don't have to share everything at once, just reconnect. The burden is lighter when shared. Healthy marriages encourage outside support, abusive ones demand secrecy, refuse to let isolation have the final word. Point 5. Finally, let's talk about the pattern recognition checklist. Abuse isn't a one-time event, it's a pattern that opposes the fruit of the Spirit. Here's a framework: consistency, escalation, impact, isolation, and fear. Consistency. Does mistreatment Happen repeatedly. Escalation. Does it get worse when you set boundaries? Impact. How does it affect your faith and health? Isolation. Are you cut off from support? Fear. Are you anxious to speak your mind? If you check more than one box, you are likely facing a pattern, not a one-off mistake. Patterns matter more than promises. True repentance is proven over time, not just words. Honest self-evaluation is crucial. Write these markers down and pray over them. The checklist isn't about condemning your spouse, it's about recognizing reality. If you see these patterns, you don't have to fix everything alone. Reach out for help, a counselor, pastor, or trusted friend. The checklist is a tool. Let it guide you toward truth and healing. Today you've learned to identify 5 ways emotional abuse hides in Christian marriages. Recognizing abuse doesn't make you a failed leader. It makes you wise. Your emotional needs aren't selfish. They're part of God's design. The first step toward healing is seeing clearly, and you've taken that step today. Fighting for your dignity teaches your children about real love and boundaries. Emotional abuse builds from subtle patterns like invisibility that erode your worth. In my next video, I'll cover 5 signs your wife no longer sees you. God sees you, your pain matters, and you were created to thrive, not just survive.